Hey there, friendos. This recording got a bit long. We actually went beyond 2 hours, which normally I try and keep it pretty succinct with the editing, but even with that, I couldn't get it down to a reasonable length. So I'm going to split it in two, and we're going to do two little outings on the same conversation. Granted, that conversation is essentially four white guys sitting around talking about politics for a while, but I swear it's not as bad as it sounds. We're cool. I promise. So, thanks for listening, and I'll see you at the end.
Good evening, and welcome to The Kitchen Sink, the podcast where no topic is left behind. My name's Harry Stemple, and I'm dressed like a technician from a pride parade. To my right is Luke, who is dressed like the lost member of So Solid crew. Across from him, we've got Jareth, who looks like a very successful YouTuber, but isn't. And next to him, we've got Shea Doyle, who looks like your cool counsellor who just really wants to keep you off drugs. Say hello, boys.
Hello, boys.
Hello, boys.
Wonderful.
It's going to be gold.
Everybody's a little bit drunk, which is, how we like it. So,
Jareth didn't say anything.
he's saving it all for later.
Okay.
He's still feeling a bit salty about that non-successful YouTuber drive.
Ooh, I made that one video once 6 years ago.
I used the toilet rollers on the camera.
So it's been a while since we've recorded. It's been It's been a while since I've released anything. It's been even longer since we recorded. I tried to get one out about a month ago, but
apparently advocating suicide is depressing.
Oh, honestly, it was grim. It was too bad. I tried my hardest to edit it into something viable, but I couldn't do it. So I figured, burn it all down and try again. So here we are. What has it been? 6 months later since we last recorded anything in here.
Well, if it was
In 6
October,
months.
that's 8 months.
That was not recorded 6 months ago. That's the last time you released something.
October was the last time we released one that was recorded here.
Yes,
Right.
but the advocating suicide one was in.
Oh yeah, we did
April.
record. Okay, yeah, fair enough. All right. In any case, we're back.
We're pedants and we're proud.
Pedants and proud.
In 10 years' time, if this becomes successful, there is going to be a clamour to release the one where we all say... I say you all say that suicide is great.
I wasn't there for that.
It's the lost episode.
Yeah, we have a lost episode now.
We've got controversy. Too hot for the internet.
Okay, so a lot
Maybe
of
we'll
stuff has
release some
happened
of the
since then. Biggest, and a lot of stuff has happened personally to us as people, but also a lot has happened in the world. I mean, last time we had a new election in the UK. It was an odd one. We had kind of a big run up to it because we were told, "Hey, everyone, we're having an election" by the Prime Minister, and suddenly everybody went into overdrive. It wasn't a scheduled one.
Well, that's the opposite of a big run-up, isn't it?
Alright. Fine.
Hey, we can't introduce ourselves as pedants and not be pedantic.
Good point. Okay. We didn't have a big run-up. We had a
Snap election.
a clamouring, is what I mean. There was a big swell of interest in politics because this one seemed to be quite a divisive one and in some ways quite a new one. We don't really see a lot of personality politics here so much as in America.
It felt very much like a presidential election.
Yeah.
It was Jeremy versus Theresa May, not...
That is how Theresa May set it up, though. You can see her buses driving by with her name in massive letters and the Conservatives written in tiny, tiny ones in the corner.
Yeah. When I went down to my polling station, there were some people there who we overheard. We overheard them saying, that they didn't understand the ballot as they came out. They were like, "I didn't see Jeremy Corbyn or Theresa May on there. Who did you go for?" Because they were expecting it to be, presidential. They were expecting to see Jeremy Corbyn, Theresa May, etc. Because nobody gave a fuck about the other ones this time around.
I mean, to be fair with that, it was a lot of people's first election, regardless of if they've been able to vote for the past 10 years, a lot of people have voted for the first time in this election, and it's not exactly, we're not explained exactly how the ballots are going to look or the polling station works or anything beforehand. We don't learn that in school or anything like that. I learned when I first went to an election.
That's true, yeah.
I think there's an element of like post-vote panic as well. Like, I don't know about you guys, but every time I go in and vote, I kind of have a moment. It takes me ages to put an X in a box, and I know what X I'm going to put it in before I go in there. And I spend ages standing there, looking at it and going, "Yeah, it's that one. It's that box. Cross that box." And then I leave, and I think, "Did I cross the right box?" So,
well, to be fair, I went in with some consternation. I went in divided. Obviously, there was this big liberal swell for the Labour Party, and they had a lot of good policies, and like. So, sometimes I wish there were separate local and national options, like there is in America. You know, you get your presidential choice, and you get your local, your senatorial choice and things like that. Because I voted Green, because the local guy, Ed, just laugh at me.
No, that was a frog burp. Sorry to disappoint.
poorly suppressed burps all throughout.
But no, I voted Green. The local guy around Thanet, Ed Target, is really good, and I kind of knew that Roger Gale was going to win it.
Yeah.
The Conservative guy. He's been the MP for Thanet North. So Roger Gale, since the district of Thanet North was created in the early 80s, and no one has ever beaten him since. And nobody looked like they were going to beat him this time. So rather than jump in with the Labour vote, I figured it would be nice to get a little uptick in numbers for the party that I actually personally feel most associated with.
That's fair enough. All I've ever talked about for the last, since before I was actually able to vote, was saying that I would definitely pick Labour if they were more left-wing. And Jeremy Corbyn came along and he went, "We're going to nationalise everything and we're going to spend money on things," and it just seemed wrong to then not vote for them. Because I did have the thing like in the previous election where I voted. I can't remember if I did vote Green or I spent allegiance. I was crossed. I was having the same debate. Do I vote Green or Labour based on who I thought was going to more likely to win?
Yeah.
And I can't actually remember, but it was nice this time to be able to actually vote for the party I wanted to, who represented most of my views.
Nice. Yeah.
And then I lived in Canterbury, and I didn't have to deal with Roger Gale. I got to be in a place that's been a Tory constituency for 160 years, and now probably only for the next 6 months, but isn't one, and that's great.
Yeah, no, that is nice.
I think with regards to the having that kind of separation between the local and the national levels, because obviously our decision locally affects the national decision, right? In terms of who becomes the prime minister.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, because we found out in the last episode that because I've been putting these up on SoundCloud and you get demographic information, and apparently we have significant listenership. Insofar as our entire listenership is about 50 people.
How have they survived all this time without us posting?
Right, like 1/3 of those people are from Sri Lanka.
Okay.
So they might not necessarily know how the parliamentary system works. You vote for your local MP, and then the party that gets the most local MPs comes into power, essentially.
Yeah.
Boiled down to its most basic. It's not perfect.
That's a very kind of rudimentary description.
Well, yeah, that's its most basic.
It's
accurate.
but it's also purposefully rudimentary.
Yeah, no, I know.
Points out that we're not voting for Jeremy Corbyn.
I wasn't
we're voting for the
criticising.
local.
No.
Yeah, but I think that it would be easier to have a system where you vote for the leader in a situation where you have in America you have 3 different sections of the government.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas here, we do, but our leader is the Queen.
And we only have one that's elected.
Well, no, because I guess the local level elections would be the council elections more so.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Than the local MP. The local MP is your representative in the Houses of Parliament.
Yeah.
What do you think about? I don't think it would work here because of us having the Queen as the head of state technically and all that. But I think the French president, like the French democratic election system, is quite interesting.
Oh, the different rounds.
Different rounds where, like, if there's like a majority in the first round, then they instantly become the president, I think. And then
Yeah, that was the other
They
thing.
have a president and a prime minister, though, don't
yeah,
they?
because the president is the overseeing of everything, and then the prime minister manages the parliament.
Right.
Yeah. That's the other thing is that France had an election.
Yeah.
Very recently, and we got a.
We've got the most.
I mean,
It's better than Le Pen, the National Front right winger, but he
he's-
is the most bland politician.
Oh, I disagree.
No,
I watched the documentary about how.
No, he's a cool guy.
Oh, okay.
He's a
Alright,
cool
fine.
guy, but his
You mean
policies
policy-wise, he's a
is-
neoliberal turd.
he's
Yeah, yeah.
he's
Was he
bigger.
like
He's
Ed Miliband?
ultra centrist.
No.
He
He's
is
an ex-banker.
Well, he's Justin Trudeau, but French.
Yeah, he's Justin Trudeau.
Actually,
but
But
French.
Justin Trudeau is really, like...
He's a cool guy, but
He's-
he's not.
Justin
really.
Trudeau
He's the
He's-
handsome face of capitalism, is what he is.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau is socially quite open, but
Macron is the victim of child abuse version of Justin
Ooh.
Trudeau.
Let's not go into that.
I mean, he met his wife when he was a 15-year-old, and
Yeah.
she was his teacher.
20
So I mean,
years his older.
it's so French.
no, it's not.
Just so continental.
But no, like they're both like economically they're both quite.
They're Lib Dems. They're if the Lib Dems were popular.
Yeah, basically, yeah. They're not perfect, but at least they're not actual fascists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Macron,
Yeah, I feel like we're...
not Macron. no.
Like-
Did you see that interview where Marine Le Pen, the leader of the National Front in France, she was asked in an interview like about the headscarf policy and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and she said so it's absolutely fine that no, they shouldn't wear headscarves in public. It means everybody's the same. And then they kept on asking her about these different sects and religions, and they got to Sikhs, who are obviously like in the Western world at least. I'm not too familiar elsewhere. They're peaceful people. They do their stuff.
They're absolutely a peaceful people.
Absolutely.
It's a very much like
Yeah.
But they are
huge
also
problem.
very noticeable.
Yeah, and that's what she said, in that she doesn't believe that there are that many Sikh in France, and if they are, they keep to themselves, and that's a good thing.
Ooh.
It's like, okay,
Got to be in the hundreds of thousands.
you're an actual just. I mean, you thought that her father was worse,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go
but
at the-
not much worse.
I'm going to go at Marine Le Pen feels pretty cheap though, because
Yeah.
it's like looking at any sort of fascist and saying, you're a racist. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
That's
Well,
the
there's-
point.
I mean,
That's
there,
me.
there are racists that are happy to admit that they're racist. Like, they are like, yes, I believe
There
that
are,
white
yeah.
people are superior to black
Yeah.
people or any other race, and therefore they're happy to be racist. They don't see it as an insult.
I met a couple of people like that in the States. They were quite nice people, but they were like open, they were like, yeah, white people are better than black people, but that doesn't mean we can't be friends with them. You know,
Oh, see,
it was a really bizarre like viewpoint.
I've met plenty of people who are just like overtly racist, and they probably say that a lot of them would probably say that they're not.
Yeah.
But then with every fibre of their being and every word that left their mouth, it would be like, well, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you. My dad told me the story about this guy who he knows, who obviously I won't name any names for reasons, but he is estranged from his son, and his son's now an adult.
Yeah.
And he'd been to this man had been to prison and stuff like that, and he got in contact with his son, and he's like, oh, and his son replied to him and said, oh, it's. I'm glad to hear that you've changed your ways, and I hope you've changed some of your views and some of your racist views and stuff. And he was reading it and he said, I don't know where he's got this from. I'm not racist. I mean, I don't like black people, but I'm not racist.
Oh no.
And you go, that is an incredible sentence.
Yeah.
Like, obviously it's wrong, but it's just an amazing sentence.
I wonder then what his definition of racism is, because he clearly has an idea
Is
of
it like?
racism because he knows that he's not it.
Is he like he doesn't like these people, but he doesn't act on it?
I guess
Yeah,
that
like
would be
maybe
it.
it's like
Mm.
maybe he just
Well-
he doesn't like them, but he doesn't think that their rights should be curbed or anything like
It's-
that. Maybe.
yeah.
It's kind of interesting actually, because it's like he obviously thinks that white people are better than kind of black people, and he doesn't think he's racist. He doesn't have a clear definition of what racism is. And then on the other side, you got the far left, who have the similar view of like, you can't be racist against white people.
Put a pin in that.
Do you know what I mean?
Because put a pin in that. Because there's another interpretation that I think might be there is that it could be that he thinks he's not racist because he doesn't think that black people are worse than white people, like scientifically. He just doesn't like them.
If you're wondering what that beeping sound is, it's Harry not having muted his Facebook conversations.
Oh shit! I forgot that was a thing. That is quite interesting what you were saying about institutionalized racism. You can't be racist against white people because there's no comparable history of hatred towards white people that carries the same weight as the one that there is for black people and Asian people, any kind of people of colour.
People of colour. I'm sorry. That phrase
it's a good
really
word.
pissed. No, it's not. Because it's exactly the same as saying coloured people.
It's a very American phrase.
What, people of colour?
People of colour.
It is, which is interesting because the
my nan says coloured people.
The
The NAACP.
NAACP.
Yeah.
That's the one. Coloured people is in the name.
Yeah. But then that was a really old association.
Exactly.
And obviously famous enough at that point that they weren't going to change it.
Exactly.
And
Time
now
moves
it's
on
back
and
to
language
being
evolves.
women of colour and then people of colour and...
Yeah, and I think that works anyway. I mean, it's a little exclusionary.
I'm not pale white. There's a whole poem. There's this really great poem about how it's this guy going through.
The whole coloured people thing isn't racist to you.
No. It's this guy. It's a black man that wrote the poem. It's a black man that wrote the poem, and he's like, when you're born, you're pink. When you're sick, you're green. When you're stuff like that. Carries on, and he goes, you call me a coloured person when you have more colours than me.
Right.
Because he sees that as a racist term, and I
it's
like the.
I can see that. I mean, like
it's not
ultimately, nobody's black.
Nobody's white. So that you know what I mean.
And nobody's white. We're all kind of
well, except for gingers.
Someone's never been to Ireland.
The human race opted for an autumnal colour palette. And there's a pretty widespread.
I think the idea of that, the reason the whole sort of coloured people sounds racist. I mean, one, it sounds racist to us because in Britain it's that is kind of racist.
Yeah, it's a very old-fashioned.
And it's really old-fashioned. But the other thing is that it suggests that white is the default and everything else.
Yeah, that
is different.
That I don't like. Like people of colour, that's the same thing. That's I don't like that how it kind of it does create a feeling of us and them.
Yeah.
And I know that is the context in which the whole racism discussion is framed, but that's a point of division that eventually, right now it might be necessary, but eventually I hope we'll move past that point of division.
I feel like to an extent it's less necessary in the UK than it is in America.
That's true. Yeah.
I feel like institutionalised racism is a lot less of an issue here, and I know it's still an issue here, but it's a lot less of an issue here than it is in America.
It's less of an issue for different reasons. It is still a massive issue. If you look at any of the fucking elected positions in the UK, they are not at all representative of demographics in the UK. How many Asian councillors can you kind of point to on any given district council?
I know of one Asian MP, and he's a Tory.
Right.
Which Asian MP is this?
I mean,
Look up his name.
Oh, okay.
isn't your local MP is
Chuka Amuna.
Yeah.
So
he's African. Isn't he?
he's African, yeah.
Theresa May.
I'm pretty sure he's British, guys, but that's not...
Oh fuck! Yeah,
African
good point.
heritage.
That's what I meant.
I think he's mixed race, but let's not worry about that.
Come on!
Look, we're treading some very sensitive ground
Also, saying someone is African
Hold on.
is just like saying someone is European.
It is. Yeah. All right.
Not when they are European.
Anyway,
If you were to call a white South African European, that's not accurate, is it?
But if Chuka Amuna is
that
mixed race and was born and raised in the UK, then he's European.
yes, he is. To be honest, the name threw me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I forgot what I was saying now.
This is the problem when you've got 4 white men in a room discussing racism.
Yeah.
Is that We have no idea what's okay.
Oh, that's what I was saying. Okay, yeah. Institutionalized racism, big deal in the UK. Look at elected positions. Theresa May's cabinet has a bunch, like it's majority white millionaire men, then there's a few white millionaire women, and then there's one Asian millionaire man. That's the extent of diversity in our supposedly representative democracy.
But I feel
But
like
the problem with sorry if I can carry on my basic point, like the problem with institutionalized racism in the UK is different than the US because we don't have that kind of fresh pain of slavery that they do. We have a history of slavery, but most of our slavery happened away.
we were more the dealers than
It
the
was in
actual
the colonies.
slavers.
We don't have a big population of the descendants of us of slaves and slave owners living side by side. So we have a different style of division.
Apart from the fact that we don't have a big population of people who are descended from slaves that lived here, but we do have like a 13% Black and African population, a lot of whom are descendants of people who came over from the West Indies in the 1940s, the late 1940s, who would have been descendants of slaves.
But they were
Oh wait, I've never seen that man before.
that
Googling Asian MPs.
Oh, nice.
It's interested.
I feel like that's a different thing though, because if you're talking about like displaced peoples, then they weren't displaced here. Obviously, it's still a valid point. They're still the descendants of people who were enslaved by our culture, but they've since it's not like they're living next to the plantation that their ancestors worked on. It's kind of a different thing.
I see what you're saying. I suppose there's an extra like 50 years of abolished slavery as well.
Yeah,
in Britain.
Obviously it's still a major issue. We do
Yeah.
have a huge problem with institutional racism. It's just aimed differently. We have a lot of kind of anti-European feel. Like you would never have thought that like racism would be so white.
Well, yeah, but like I mean, if you look at the history of Europe, it makes entire sense. Like
Our
most
racism is based off different shades of white more than anything else.
It is, yeah.
I don't think that's true. I think our racism is based off whoever's the most recent group of immigrants. So in the 1970s it was Pakistani and Indian immigrants, and in the 1940s and 50s it was black immigrants.
Yeah.
And now obviously it's
Polish and then
Romanians and Bulgarians, and 10 years ago it was Polish people. And in 5 years' time, when Brexit's done, it'll be probably
our
some
own people coming back.
It'll be either our own people coming back, or it'll probably be some.
You're awfully tanned.
Oh, been working in a Spanish bar, have you?
You damn Cypriot.
Get out of here.
I imagine it will return to. Well, actually, I mean, it's not even Romanian and Bulgarians, is it? It's actually asylum seekers that we apparently have a problem with.
Yeah. Well, we were worried it was going to be Romanians when they got into the EU.
And then that didn't happen.
Nothing happened.
Sure.
But then suddenly, Syrian refugees and the like.
But I imagine if like the Brexiteers get their way and it's increased immigration from outside the EU, then it probably will return to being a racism aimed at non-white people.
It will, yeah.
Because I imagine our non-white immigration would go up because you need immigration.
Yeah,
Otherwise.
absolutely. You can't have
We're an ageing population as it is. So.
They keep talking about we'll get a points-based Australian system.
Which is a rubbish system.
I think
Thanks, John.
that we've missed out a lot of the racism towards like Germans and French people around the wartime as well. Like it wasn't just like black people that come over. Like there's so much like my grandparents, and I'm sure all of your grandparents were like massively racist towards Germans and French people and that kind of thing. It was. Do you know what I mean? Like
I think
at least one of my grandparents was descended from Germans.
bloody Germans.
I think racism towards like Germans and French people
around wartime.
Around wartime is a bit different, but
because
now
they're an active.
But it's not wartime anymore. Yeah, but it's not wartime.
Now I feel like I do kind of see what you're saying.
So the Syrians, technically.
Like
No, they aren't. They're civilians.
No, but we are bombing Syria currently.
Yeah, but we're not.
But
I said technically. I did say technically. We had German refugees as well.
We're not bombing Syria. We're not bombing. We're not bombing the enemy state of Syria.
No, but we had
We're
German
bombing
refugees.
A incursion.
I think it's just a
into
proximity
Syria.
thing. It was a direct threat on sovereign soil. They were coming. The Germans were obviously doing the Blitz and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They had a lot of, I guess in a way, because war is war, they had a lot of reasonable anger at their house had been destroyed by a German bomb, their family had been killed by a German bomb.
That's true.
They're going to hate the Germans. There's not any real reason to hate a Syrian person because Syrian jets aren't flying over blowing up St. Paul's Cathedral.
Yeah, well, I mean, war has become disassociated for us.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I agree with you guys. I'm not saying that. I was just saying that, you know, racism extended past just kind of like people that were entering our country.
Sure. But the other problem with that is that, like, a lot of the German refugees at the time were the people who were being persecuted in Germany. It was Jews and Gypsies, homosexuals, communists.
Yeah.
Anybody who disagreed with the German government.
People were racist against those people.
Well, yeah,
whilst they were in the country.
But it wasn't. But it wasn't because they were German. It was like people didn't like them because prevailing attitudes at the time said that we're not supposed to like Jews, we're not supposed to like homosexuals, we're not supposed to like gypsies.
Yeah, but I'm saying what I was trying to say is that there's like racism extends past kind of the things that we were saying about like just them being immigrants or something like that. You know, it goes further than that.
Right.
We were racist against, and the French were our allies. Don't forget, and we were racist towards like.
I don't know if we can count. I don't know if we can count anti-French feeling as racism. That's more of like a friendly banter between brothers.
I think we, as a nation, see like xenophobia towards the French and Germans as just jolly japes, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, like we
just like, oh, those Germans with their beer and their sausages. Oh, those French with their surrendering.
I mean, we were at war with the French for about 800 years.
Yeah,
it's not like you know, fucking
British
French with their
no,
horrible.
there's some
British
people that
general
don't like French.
British like genuine xenophobia in the past, specifically, obviously not now, would I think go to the point of thinking the Chinese as just opiate mules, basically. Like they're not giving us the tea. We'll introduce opium and ruin the dynasties.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because actual pure animosity, or then even to the point of going to the Middle East and just carving nations to get the best cut of oil.
No, I think it's quite interesting you bring up China because like a lot of people talk about China as this big looming, you know, like it's the Soviet Union of the next 20 years. It's this big scary thing.
Really
people talk about I've heard people use China so often as an argument against curbing greenhouse emissions and like making environmental regulation more strict. They say, oh well, you know, why would we hamstring ourselves when China's not going to bother? China's out there producing coal-fired power stations by the millions, and you know they're all just trading in their rice paddies for cars, so why should we cut ourselves down and be unproductive? But like China is making huge amounts of investment into green energy. China's designing whole cities like around the idea that
like we made garden cities. I did that with quotations.
Sure.
They're making garden cities.
I feel like
Plus,
Oriental Asia is actually leading.
Christ.
I'm talking about like Singapore, Thailand, China.
No, okay.
You know,
sure. Okay,
Oriental Asia. I mean, it's the Far East. Fine, whatever. That's
what was that game we were playing earlier?
Oriental.
What's wrong with that?
Oriental is not the. That's not the word. It's not. It's just not. It's like the coloured people of colour thing. I get, you know, it's a description. It's a geographic description. Fine, whatever. But that's not the word.
So what would I call it?
You say Asia,
East Asia,
and then if you're talking about India and Pakistan, and you talk about subcontinental Asia because that's subcontinental Asia.
Yeah.
But yeah.
East Asia is what you're talking about. Carry on.
Look at me.
I don't know what's wrong with it.
It's just,
so what is it about the Orientals that you're interested in?
It carries a lot of weight
because of Orientalism.
Yeah, basically. Do you remember that?
But there's
scene in the
there's
do you remember that
fucking
scene-
food that's called Oriental something.
You remember that scene?
What's wrong?
You remember that scene?
Do you reckon
in the
they called it
mouse-
Oriental food?
Yeah.
Or do you reckon they called it Chinese food?
I've heard-
I reckon they call it food.
I've heard people say, rugs are Oriental, not people. But like, yeah, but like,
What if they shave?
What about Turkish rugs?
but yeah, no, not Oriental. East Asian. Go ahead.
East Asia. I can't even remember what I'm gonna fucking say.
Something
Singapore-
about Agatha Christie and her trains.
I don't think it was.
She does love her trains. Did she did?
She's dead.
Oh, we were talking about a long time ago.
What? When?
We were talking about
Different note.
like environmentalism and stuff like that. You
Oh,
were
okay.
talking
I
about
won't make a different note.
the connection of, you know,
I can't remember.
Singapore.
No, I'm done.
All right.
You shot me down.
I did. Don't say Oriental. It's bad.
What's wrong with Oriental?
Whoa there, shit lord!
Is it because you look Oriental? Is that the reason?
I may have.
Now you're just being more racist because he's not Oriental! He's Asian!
I just want the listeners who will not get a chance to hear this to also know that Harry was earlier today referred to as Chung Pao.
I was referring
And
to
we played
as Chung
and
Pao.
we played a late 80s board game today called The Mysteries of Ancient Peking.
Oh yeah, it was
Old Peking.
yeah,
Peking.
Old Peking. That was weird.
With such characters as Mr. Sly Lee.
That felt palpably uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Can I just say?
But I didn't want to
locally,
seem cool. I didn't want to seem uncool in front
There's
of
an
your
Asian.
friends.
There's an Asian grocery shop locally. That's what it's described. Called Starry Kent Oriental.
All right.
And there's also a place called Ties R Us.
Tizer.
So, is that
That's
not the
quite
same?
funny.
I like that. Is that not the same place?
No,
Isn't that
there's
Ties
different
R
places.
Us Oriental supermarket? I'm pretty sure.
It's an Asian grocery shop, but it's
Oh, is that what
Starry Kent Oriental.
To be fair, again, that's a way in which our conversation about like racial politics has been influenced by the US. You're way more likely to hear people use the word Oriental here than you are over there. Over there, it's like he used a bad word, but like here, it's just like no, that's what your grandmother calls them when she's trying to be PC.
Yeah.
You know.
That's probably, you'd hear that a lot more obviously in many metropolitan cities in the US,
Yeah.
especially in things like San Francisco or up in Canada and like Vancouver and stuff like that, where they have a very large East Asian population
Yeah.
because of good old.
You know, Oriental Asian.
To be fair, I have had like reflected racism, I guess you could call it. The other week, I was.
Do you mean you look in mirrors and show these are Asian
You look
people?
in mirrors and you're like, you look Asian.
No.
You look Oriental. Oh shit.
No.
You walk past the mirror and scream, "Damn you, you yellow bastard!"
About a month ago, do you remember?
It
Do
was
you
that
remember?
from the start.
Do you remember we went out for my birthday? We went to the Foundry.
Let us forget.
I wasn't in the Foundry.
We went to the Foundry. It was really fun. We had a lot of fun dancing around, and there was this guy who kept coming up to us and was like, he came up and he was so drunk. He came up and he was like, he's one of those guys who like he almost tries to fight you, but then when he can't goad you into a fight, he's like, oh yeah, we're friends now. He was one of them, and he did that with me. He was like squaring up. He was like, and then when I wouldn't fight him, he was like, come on, I'll buy you a drink. And he bought me a drink, and we went outside, and we had a fag, and he said, "There's another one. There's another word
What was his name?
there's another word that's really common in the UK, but you can't say in America." But yeah, we had a cigarette, and he sat down, and he looked. He got really serious. And he looked at me and he said, "You know what? You're the biggest Oriental I've ever seen."
To sadly break the news to him.
And I was just like, alright. Whatever, fine, cool. Cheers for the drink. I'll correct him.
Did he buy you sake?
There's no use in correcting him. He's 8 drinks in.
Last
and,
time I went to the
trying to
Foundry-
fight people.
Last time I went to the Foundry was actually with Mr. Jarrett. There was Cocaine Man who had the biggest pupils of anyone I've ever seen in my life, and then there was this massive sweaty fat man who tried to take and wear my glasses, and I was like, I don't know you.
I need these to see.
That's actually what I said to him. I said, I need these to see. And he tried to pull them off my face.
Yeah. Well, people think they're a prop, don't they? They kind of they look at you and they think, oh yeah,
It would look really funny on my head. Yeah, they would, because they're mine.
I remember what
I can't tell you if they're going to look funny because I can't fucking see. Yeah, go on, Luke.
So,
What is it you were going to say about East Asian people?
no, it wasn't about the people. It was about the countries. They're leading the way in terms of like kind of generating green energy and implementing it effectively.
Yeah.
Like Singapore, I have a friend called Gershon who lives in Singapore. He keeps telling me about all these like kind of like they have massive solar farms, they have massive wind farms, they have like you go on the
Gardens by the
coast
bay.
and you see the waves, the wave machines.
The Gardens by the Bay.
Yeah.
Singapore, isn't it?
Yeah.
I
But,
think
I mean,
in a way it's obviously very beneficial for those countries who were recently like becoming like economically rich.
Yeah.
They're skipping the bad forms of energy generation that we had to like fight through.
Yeah, they're skipping smog,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Oh, they just don't know.
Plus, plus they've
Put some
got
whiskers on your chin.
plus we've got a much higher population density
Yeah.
than we ever did, and it's like they, by necessity, if they were producing the same amount of pollution per person that we did when we were becoming
Apparently, yeah, but apparently cars in China have become a very big problem. Like, there's
I would
just
imagine
too
so.
many cars.
Yeah, there's so many people there that like they couldn't do it. Their air would be toxic.
Well, they are doing it, and the issue is that as it is in the Western world, having a car is a form of status symbol.
It is, yeah.
I can afford a car. I can be able to get a job X miles away rather than having to rely on whatever my
Yeah.
bunghole town can get me.
It's like you look at like LA in the 80s and 90s,
Oh dear.
and it was so smoggy that you couldn't like see down the end of the street, you know.
Yeah.
Then they brought in all these environmental regulations, and
Yeah.
suddenly, almost like it works, the air quality improved tenfold.
Did you see the photos from that one day? I think it was in Hong Kong, where they had one day where they were like, you're not allowed to drive your cars. I think because their I'm not sure if it's a king. Their state leader had died or something,
Right.
so they're having a day where they didn't.
I don't think there's any more kings in
I
China
don't think
after
there's
the
a king of
Communist
Hong
Party.
Kong.
I can't remember who it was, but someone had died, and they were having like a no, you're not allowed to drive
Right.
anywhere, just as a sign of respect kind of thing.
Okay.
And there was
It's
one day,
interesting.
and the smog cleared in a day, and you could see, it was the first time they saw a blue sky.
Yeah. Well, they've tried.
I think it was on Hong Kong. I'm
there
gonna
have been-
Google it
There have been.
if Shea isn't already.
I'm googling Hong Kong just because I feel like they might have had a king
I mean, they
or something
measure.
similar.
Was this? But it depends on what kind of period of time. Because when did
This was like
Hong
last
Kong
10
get
years.
quote unquote handed over to the Chinese government? It's in the 90s.
Longer ago that environmental protection started to become an issue.
I think it was in the 90s.
Yeah, we
Yeah, it was like 97.
Yeah. Well, we didn't think about
94.
environmental protection in the 90s.
97. That's basically
Yeah.
2000.
The problem with
Round it up.
but like like they measure smogless days in
97.
Beijing
That's right, the first time.
instead of smog-filled days.
Yeah, I know that Beijing's getting
It was Beijing.
a lot better. Beijing's most likely to be the one because it's Hong Kong's an island, so it
Yeah.
has a lot of ways for the smog to clear, whereas
Yeah.
Beijing's I think is inland or is mostly inland. High pressure means
Oh.
that the smog stays.
Speaking
Right,
of
just to confirm what it was on August 20th. It doesn't say what year, but it was Beijing, and it was the 70th anniversary of Japan's World War II defeat.
oh,
And so the city, they banned people driving, and I know there's no photos on the podcast, but there's a photo of the difference just in one
Oh,
day.
I see. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is significant. That's crazy. Blue skies compared to brown.
Yeah.
Lovely brown.
Well, that's taking us back to the institutional racism. That's one of those kind of famous racially based conflicts that doesn't have anything to do with white people. You know, the Chinese and the Japanese fucking hate each other
Yeah.
historically.
Yeah.
These days they're better, but like historically they couldn't stand each other.
And to share a bay. There's not enough fish for two big.
And they didn't,
cities.
yeah. Well, and they kept trying to conquer each other. And yeah, it's interesting to see if in a place like that can you have, is it to do with balances of power?
Japan must be really awkward to conquer because it's mostly mountains.
Yeah, I mean Kublai Khan tried it. Well, for them it was more. There was a storm. Knocked
Yeah.
out a lot of their fleet.
Well, that's another thing is, I mean, Japan's great in terms of location for like being a seafaring trading nation and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But you, apart from I guess the people who already exist there and have put foundations there, if you raise a city in
Yeah.
times of old when you're conquering countries like that, how are you meant to rebuild a city when there's earthquakes all the time?
They didn't, though. Interestingly, like you make that point
Mm.
that they got a strong position as a trading nation.
Mm.
They didn't for a long time. They were officially and extremely insular.
Yeah.
They refused to trade with the outside world, except for the Dutch in this one port.
Yeah.
There was one port in Japan that was kind of officially allowed to be traded with foreign people, and only the Dutch.
Okay.
All throughout kind of what we think of as like the mercantile area,
Mm.
era, sorry. The explorers exploring the world and all that stuff. Japan was just, no, we don't
Yeah.
want any of it. We don't want any of your outside world.
Well,
Until an American general, an American admiral rode up with his gunships and was like, right, you're trading with us.
Which is the basis of The Last Samurai.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's
I've not seen that film in a long time.
that,
Genuinely is.
that stereotype of sort of Asian people being smaller than sort of white people, I suppose,
Right.
actually kind of comes from this whole idea of them not really trading with other people. Like before the Second World War, the diet of like Japanese people was basically fish based because obviously they didn't do a
Right,
huge
yeah.
amount of trade with the outside world, and they're a seafaring nation.
Yeah.
But since the end of the Second World War and trading with like Western nations,
Yeah.
they're just like meat intake has gone up massively.
Yeah.
So like the Japanese population's average height has gone up massively and like size has gone up massively.
Yeah.
Obesity has gone up massively.
Yeah, that's
It
it.
has. Funnily enough, though, whaling was not part of their traditional diet. The whole thing about like the Japanese being whale, like they tried to harvest whale oil on an industrial scale, like we all did at some
Yeah.
point. We all did, like us personally. Like
I love that whale oil.
Well,
we've
we
all-
catch them all.
we've all tried to murder and milk a whale, but like all the kind of industrial nations tried to industrially harvest whale oil for a long time, and they did the same thing. They were like, all right, we're going to industrialize, then we're going to try and do this whale oil thing, and that's unfortunately the line in the sand that they've drawn about the Western world telling them what to like and what to not like.
So they still
It's
kind of do it
yeah,
on
it's
the
kind
sly.
of yeah. It's like it was never like traditionally a part of their diet or anything. No, it is interesting about kind of Japanese isolationism. Another cool thing was that we tried to we as in the Western world. I think specifically it was Spanish or Portuguese Catholic missionaries.
Portuguese.
Very specific.
Portuguese Catholic missionaries went over there and tried to convert a bunch of them to Christianity.
But they get murdered.
They were promptly murdered. They did a bunch of conversion first once they were there, but then at the time it was the emperor. He said, "No, this isn't in keeping with our culture. This isn't in keeping with our way of life. Christians can fuck off." Basically.
This isn't Shinto? No.
And
And
that was Liam Neeson and Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver. And it was All in a World, directed by Martin Scorsese.
He shut it all down, and they
He didn't. He made a whole film about it. It was like 3 hours long. I still haven't watched it.
They
What film
killed.
is this?
Silence.
Yeah,
Is it? Is that what that's all about?
fairly new. Yeah.
Andrew
They-
Garfield and that doing terrible Portuguese accents as they go to Japan and try and convert.
Oh, is that how you know it was Portuguese?
Yeah.
Oh.
I know nothing about this
they,
story.
they killed all the missionaries. They excluded Christian missionaries from their very strict Dutch trading regimen, and they thought, all right, cool, Christianity has been wiped out. That's a danger that we've avoided. But then 200-300 years later, when they opened the borders again, Christians arrived in Japan.
En masse.
Well, not en masse, but like they traded again.
Yeah.
And they found little pockets of people in Japan, little villages where Christianity and Catholicism in particular had been practiced in secret for generations. they weren't allowed to have any kind of holy books or anything, because if they were found, they'd be burned and murdered. But like, so they had told the stories to each other orally, and it had become warped. So when Christian people were allowed to go back to Japan 200 years later, they found a bunch of people with like bizarre changes to biblical stories. Biblical stories passed down as folklore with odd kind of differences. That's why there's a lot of really weird interpretations of Christianity in like anime and stuff, because they have this tradition of slightly altered.
This is actually really interesting. It goes back to like kind of like the racism discussion we were having.
Yeah,
where
way
you know
off the rails.
Well, you know, like
like
you see like paintings of like say Jesus, and me and Shea
I know exactly. What
and you have
about.
paintings of Jesus in America and in Europe, and they show like a white man.
Yeah,
and then but then
conservative Jesus.
There's been quite a lot of like other paintings from around the world of like different like so say Japan.
Yeah,
they have
Oriental Jesus.
They have
you get your white.
I'm sorry.
They have a painting of Jesus, and he looks like he's from Japan.
Right.
And there's John the Baptist, and there's Jesus, and it's clearly that scene of John the Baptist baptizing Jesus.
Yeah.
But they look like
you got your white Jesus, you got your Mexican Jesus, you
Mexican Jesus.
Yeah.
I think the point I was trying to make when I talked to Shea about it the other day was that like it's not just kind of, I feel like and this isn't me saying white people are oppressed, but it feels like when white people are discussed about kind of like adopting other people's cultures and like cultural appropriation and that stuff, it's very much like white people are making Jesus white. And it's not like you don't really think about necessarily like Japanese people doing the same thing in Japan and stuff like that. You know, that's not really discussed.
Cultural appropriation and like the desire to like look at a new like you find a set of new things, and kind of you want to
you want to make it feel like you're involved.
Yeah,
and I
think that's endemic to human culture.
Yeah, I think that's just how people work. I mean, the other, obviously, super huge religion in the world, Islam, gets away with it through not having any kind of visual representation, of manifesting of Allah or Muhammad.
Yeah.
And whereas Islam spans, like, I guess, is like the primary religion in a country from like Morocco all the way to Indonesia.
Yeah,
but Christianity
with a
has
gap.
that.
With a gap in the subcontinental in India and that, but yeah.
But Christianity has the same thing that says you shall not worship any false idols, and then they just did anyway.
But
we really like gold.
But like,
we really like statues of women who may or may not be virgins.
Yeah.
But like idolatry is different than
but that's what
sanctifying.
No, but that's what it says. That's like the cultural apprehension behind not having images of Muhammad and Allah is that you don't want to worship false idols. That's the story of Muhammad returning to, I think it's Mecca or Medina, Mecca, and smashing all the idols.
But then why? I don't want to get into a religious debate in terms of Christianity or Islam, but I always thought about that is then why do some Muslims go and do Hajj and go to Mecca and worship a giant block?
Well, they're not worshipping the block itself.
It's a tomb. I understand that they're worshipping.
It's the first mosque,
but they're also not like they're not actually the problem with idolatry is that it's not that you're in theory things like relics and saints and stuff like that. You're allowed to worship at the feet of something that either through hierarchy like saints or through representation like relics. You're allowed to worship God through something.
Yeah, I'd like to quickly preface that I have my obviously interest in these things, but I'm not entirely knowledgeable. So I could be completely wrong.
Fair enough.
The block of Mecca is
more interested in anything.
Yeah. So in theory with relics or with saints, things like that, those things are representative of your kind of worship of God.
Yeah.
It's kind of like channeling it through that powerful object or image.
I guess the block is the idea is that it's the first mosque.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so
supposedly the place where he went and
built the first
I believe
mosque.
is like
Yeah,
Okay.
so the idea is that they're worshipping at the first mosque that was ever
Yeah.
built.
Okay.
Whereas like idolatry is like you're
Which is kind of cool if you think
this
about
tree
it.
is God.
Yeah.
It's like the kind of the Celtic image
Yeah.
of like animism.
Yeah.
That's what people meant by idols.
It's interesting if that is the first mosque and the fact that they do the rotation around it, because when you pray, you're meant to be praying towards Mecca.
Yeah.
But if you're at Mecca,
You have to go around.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's, that's the idea.
I
I
like
think.
that. That's good.
again, I kind of feel like, I don't know, I don't want to call it FOMO, but I do kind of want to go to Mecca.
Yeah, no, I can see that. It's a very
You're-
interesting.
not allowed, are you?
Not allowed. I'm not allowed.
That's the
I
thing.
can't go.
It's like it's an interesting cultural phenomenon.
As soon as I started learning about Islam in detail in like school and stuff, I heard it. Oh, if you can only go to do Hajj if you're Muslim. So
Yeah.
I want to go. It sounds like a really cool piece of like a historical city that I'd like to explore.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, apparently it's not these days. There's a lot of
McDonald's.
basically hotels and like foreign hotel chains run by local Muslim businessmen
Yeah.
who have taken the opportunity to be like, right, people who don't follow Islam aren't allowed to come into Mecca, so we're going to do business here.
Yeah, I don't imagine that it's going to obviously be preserved, whatever, but it is still like I think fairly rightfully a isolated area of the world that I will never get access to.
There are
And as long as that McDonald's sells halal beef burgers,
yeah.
what's the problem?
Yeah, there are road signs and things when you're travelling to Mecca where it says, next exit all non-Muslims.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you go any further than this, you're going into Mecca.
Yeah.
I've just done a quick Google, sorry. And the cube, as we call it,
The cube.
well, actually, apparently in Arabic it is actually called the cube.
That's
It's
with
the
a cube,
Kaaba.
isn't it?
No, it's
Kaaba.
Kaaba, but there probably is a Q-based version. Well, there is, like the
Yeah,
Quran,
I know,
there's
I
like
know.
Yeah, I've always seen
K-O-R-A-N
it with
and there's Q-U-R-A-N. Is basically considered to be like the holiest place on earth and is like the house of God. That is what the Kaaba is meant to be.
I would want to be God and live in that little cube.
I'm pretty sure it's the idea is that's
Terrible feng shui in this cube.
that's
He's
where
probably just a big agoraphobe if he's living in there.
that's where Muhammad.
I built it too big.
Oh, I made all this world, but why can't I live in it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where Muhammad.
dear.
The black thing is like
The drape.
a
But
drape.
yeah, in
Yeah.
the
And
Quran,
it's the first. It's where Muhammad built the first mosque.
but yeah, in the Quran it says, "Verily, the first house of worship appointed for mankind was that of Bakka, which is apparently Mecca,
Yeah.
full of blessing and guidance for mankind."
Yeah.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Okay.
It's. I mean, yeah. It's like
Sorry,
if there was a first church, if there was a first cathedral, I'm sure that would be a place of
Yeah.
pilgrimage for all the.
Canterbury Cathedral.
It's
Well,
Sorry, I
church.
realised that was a bit of a jump back, but I'm really aware of like how ill-informed people, and I include myself very
No,
much
that's
so,
true,
in this
yeah.
country are about Islam, and I don't want to make
Yeah.
any sort of statements about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That's why I wanted to stick that in.
That's
there.
Yeah.
Why is that so? Why is that so hard for? We got taught it in school,
I feel like I've retained a lot of information about Islam from school though.
right? And
It's
why
hard
is that
because
so difficult for
it's
people?
hard because we live in a culture that is still living in the shadow of a horrendous terrorist attack that happened in another country 16 years
That was
ago.
ages ago.
Yeah, but the fact is that we still live in a culture that is constantly referencing 9/11 and is
Can't-
living with the
oh.
consequences of 9/11.
I guess.
and everything we hear about Islam is told through this incorrect filter.
My
Is-
care for 9/11 came to the point of, oh, I hope my American family are okay. They
Right.
are? Oh, good.
I don't
The end.
particularly agree in this, but I think for a lot of people in the Western world, it happened in the United States,
Yeah.
but it was a quote unquote attack on Western culture, European
Yeah, I mean,
and
that-
American
it's
culture.
also-
So that is why they chose the World Trade Center.
It's also
Yes.
the biggest attack on a domestic soil in a Western country since the Second World War.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's for another reason.
There's no denying that it's kind of era defining. We are certainly
Well, it,
I remember
it
in
changed
me-
everything in a way.
in media studies, we had Miss Junaideen always talked about post 9/11 media as a whole separate thing, and
It is. It
yeah,
definitely
yeah,
is.
no, but at the time I thought, it's not that huge of a thing, but like the more
Look
it is
into it,
a
yeah.
huge deal.
And all you have to do is look at the kind of like the recent attacks in the UK and France and Russia and all of that, and just see how even those attacks, which aren't as catastrophic as 9/11 was, they still change everything. Like the recent attacks, going back to the general election that we started this all on, they had a massive influence over the election results. I think because of the way that Theresa May acted, the way that Jeremy Corbyn acted. It doesn't take much for something to shift.
Yeah.
Any kind of thing. And, in history lessons in 10 years' time, we're going to be talking about the recent attacks in London and Manchester, and going, okay, this is a historical.
Can I
massively so?
actually? Can I actually agree with Luca. Can I maybe try and drag this back to where we kind of started with the general election and stuff?
Yeah.
Is that I said this to all of you before on a group chat that I genuinely feel that there is like a shift of feeling and of like just like sort of contentment in Britain. I feel like for us, a lot of the stuff about public services and blah 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 was making us quite discontented.
Yeah.
But the terrorist attacks, like the 3 terrorist attacks that happened in the space of 3 months.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously been one in Finsbury Park afterwards, and then Grenfell happening, the Grenfell Tower fire happening.
Sure.
Like all of these things building up into one moment feel like a big change to me, and like there's going to be something. It feels like something either really horrible or really hopeful and good is going to come out of it. Like either we'll get like a genuine, real change, or I can see it being like a 2011 style rioting in the streets type thing.
Well, this is what I was about to bring up. I was about to bring up the 2011 riots.
You think we're coming to a point of culmination?
It feels like it to me. It feels like people are angry.
The pot is about to boil over.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I know it wasn't a terrorist attack, but after the tragedy that happened at Grenfell Tower, there was protests which were called the Day of Rage.
The Day of Rage, yeah.
I've never heard of that. What was that?
To coincide with the Queen's speech, there was a big march in London that was just that they called the Day of Rage, and they were like organisers saying like the Tories wage a day of rage against all of us every day with austerity.
Is it possible that we've wasted a really good term? Because like the Day of Rage sounds badass, but like I'd never heard of that before.
Well, I mean,
wasted.
If you've looked like been keeping up with the Grenfell Tower stuff, I feel like it's totally apt. Like there's so much anger. There's so much that even the news coverage of the Grenfell Tower incident, like they were saying, oh yeah, 15 people have been confirmed dead. Normally, I mean, they do like say there was a terrorist attack. They say 15 people have been confirmed dead, but we think there's this many.
There's
this many potential.
The fire chief said that it was expected to rise. It was 15 confirmed dead of people that they could identify.
Yeah, but like if you think,
I literally read 2 hours ago that they're currently saying that they won't know the actual death total until next year.
Right, but
actually it said not this year, so it didn't even say next year. It said we won't know this year.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that when there's a terrorist attack, they say we suspect there's this many people dead, and it's a pretty accurate number to what the total is. So like after.
But I see what you're saying, but like a terrorist attack, like the one on London Bridge the other day, they killed everyone that had done it within 8 minutes. So it's quite quick. You've got
I understand that.
And they're easily identifiable and easily seen.
It's also things like I guess other terrorist attacks have focused on what is the right term? Like civil areas, like civil service areas, or areas of trade, companies, businesses, where they're able to know what the maximum capacity of the building is, the employees in a building, blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
and they're able to pull on that info.
They have that information though.
Yeah, but it's residential. It can be wafty.
But
you very rarely get terrorist attacks on residential areas.
Yeah.
Like they know who lives there.
Grenfell isn't a residential attack, isn't it? It's just a damaged thing.
No.
He said you very rarely get
attacks
on residential areas.
You like in our country, you don't really get terrorist attacks on residential areas,
Okay,
which
fine.
makes it easier for them to pick out who's.
Yeah,
who's,
I think
who's
what
done
I'm saying is that they did know at a certain point that it was over 15. They weren't reporting that. They were saying, this is the media outlets, not the fire wardens and stuff like that were unofficially saying there's probably a lot more dead, right? And like even Lily Allen was on TV and she was saying that there's the fire chiefs are saying that there's probably over 100 dead. But
the fire chief said that he really hoped it wasn't in triple figures, and he was like,
okay,
literally
whatever. Who she said? She said she's spoken to firemen, and they'd said that there was over 100 dead.
Why was Lily Allen there?
Because she lives in that area.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and she was helping people. She was a prominent figure that was helping people.
Okay.
But the news at that point was still reporting that there was only 15 dead.
Right.
I guess they can only go what they know is confirmed.
No, they don't normally. They don't. The news don't have to go with what's confirmed. They can go with approximate figures and say approximately this many dead. They reported it in such a shitty way. They reported it as if it was not a big deal.
I think
Well, they don't like to be proved wrong. They don't like to look back and go, oh, actually, it was a lot less than that.
And
because a lot of people see the first thing, and that's all they see.
And when I first heard about it, which me living in London was obviously pretty sharpish,
Sure.
I thought fire in a tower block. Okay, I saw somebody getting off the bus going to work, looking at it on their phone, and I saw a tower block and it had a fire on it. And I was like, okay. And by the time I got to work, I realised that the horror that it was.
That's a big deal, yeah.
It was a huge deal. I'm sure the media felt the same way. You have domestic fires all the time, and it's not a big thing.
It's such a weird thing though. It's like a literal tombstone to Britain's public sector. Like you look at it, and it's a massive black monolith.
I was
full of. It must still be full of dead people.
Yeah.
The top floors of that must still be full of dead people. And you look at that,
it's
and you
very,
go,
very unstable to go up there for people getting bodies down and stuff.
And I mean, eventually
go-
it's all just carbon. They're probably they've become the same as their surroundings.
and it's
They've
just
been
like
objectified, literally.
to be honest, it didn't hit me at all. Like when I was reading about that fire, I kind of had a similar thing. Where I was like, oh yeah, that stuff kind of happens.
Sad news.
And then you read more and more and more and more about it, and it hit me more and more about how entirely avoidable and
Yeah.
It's when you start hearing about the fact that the cladding they used.
Well, I guess this is what I was saying about the Day of Rage thing, and how it's so apt. It's like the fact that the news were underreporting how many people had died, the fact that the cladding was flammable, massively flammable,
and £2 cheaper a thing.
Yeah, the fact that they didn't have any fire alarms, the fact that no one seemed to care at first, because people commented on the fact that no one seemed to care at first, and they just weren't interested at first, all this stuff.
I don't know how true this is. I only read about this a couple of times, but there was a whole thing about how Kensington Council were saying that they they offered to put in fire alarms into the building, but the local residents said, "Oh no, it'll be a real disturbance." If you're a responsible council, you do it anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if some people obviously there can be complainers about anything that happens that the council wants to do. You just do it. Even if there were complainers or some old biddy who just hates everything.
I'm gonna link this back to institutionalized racism because I feel like we can get this all linked back in.
Hold on. I think your problem there is that you're considering responsible council as
No, I'm saying
no. I don't. I know that we are all really lefty people. We all hate the Tories.
Sure.
But it doesn't matter how Tory a council is. They should be responsible enough to not kill people.
You think so, but one of the primary problems with one of the primary divisions between left wing and right wing at the moment is that the left wing doesn't understand why you have to explain to the right wing why you should feel compassion for other people.
It's not about compassion though. There's a difference between being compassionate and putting people in houses where they may well die.
That is compassion. That's
there's a difference between compassion. A compassionate person is going to say, I want you to have a good life. I want you to be able to fulfill your potential.
Yeah.
A normal human being, a person with any empathy for human life is going to say, I want you to not die
But this-
if you live at the top floor of this tower block
Well,
and the 4th floor has a fire.
But
Well,
this
then
is-
I never thought I'd say this, but Shea, I think you're giving the Tories too much credit.
No, but no. I think I agree with Harry on that point. Only because
I'm not. I'm saying they didn't do that. I'm saying
This-
they should do that. I should be able to expect that.
Yeah,
from
no,
anyone.
was-
I
yeah,
think
but-
that falls
with-
into the definition of compassion.
that's the idea of
for those
capitalism,
people.
though. It's that money is more important than life. How much money would you put on a life? This goes back to what Amber Rudd said during that debate, where she was
Oh my
talking,
God.
where she was talking about Saudi Arabia and selling weapons to Saudi Arabia,
It's
and
good
she said
business.
it's good business. Like, it's exactly the same point. Like
Yeah.
they only care about human life to a point where it costs a certain amount.
Boris Johnson in PMQ said today, someone brought that back up about Saudi Arabia, reselling weapons to Saudi Arabia, who are furthering the conflict in Yemen.
And about to wipe Qatar off the map by the seams, by the likes of it.
Yeah. And he said that he can't think of a reason why why Great Britain is affecting Yemen. We're only trying to do good things to help to stop or quell the crisis in Yemen. It's just it's so obvious.
Okay.
If you sell weapons to someone who's then going to pass those weapons onto.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Can I try and before we move on to
Sorry,
Saudi
you
Arabia?
go back at-
Can
yeah.
we try and link? Can I try and get this a link back to institutionalized racism and Grenfell, which I'm smirking too much about because it's fucking horrendous. Who were the predominant residents of Grenfell Tower? Because some of the first victims who I heard about were Syrian refugees.
Right, yeah. there
And
was a lot
so many of those
yeah,
refugees,
a lot
so
of
many of those
houses there.
residents were people from black and ethnic minority backgrounds,
Yeah.
and they're all living in housing that is
And
just
Eastern
not
Europe as well.
compatible. There's not
was
compatible for human life.
Obviously, like every story, everybody that's died there is a tragedy. There's no doubt about that. The one I remember, but to bring up one particular, I remember hearing about this one man who died, was a Syrian refugee,
Yeah.
and just got into the United Kingdom in 2014.
You've read about him, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he struggled and fought through leaving his homeland, leaving potentially his family,
Yeah.
everything he knew, made his way across the Middle East and through Europe into Great Britain as an asylum seeker, got accepted as an asylum seeker, got put into Grenfell, 3 years later, burnt to death.
And there were people in there. There were like Syrian, like his brother, I think, said that who survived it. Obviously, he said that Grenfell fire tower was worse than anything that he'd experienced in Syria. Like it was as bad or worse than any of like the experiences that he'd had in war.
So again, I don't know if anybody listening
Sorry.
has heard, but like I am looking for somebody who is a young person who also identifies as a conservative. If you'd like to come and talk to me
Yeah.
about
No, I think
being a Tory, I like genuinely. I know that we're a bunch of we're the snowflakiest cucks in the world, but like come and
well, that's not going to make them come over to you, is it?
Cuck and proud.
Socially,
I mean,
Fuck my girlfriend. She's not real.
You guys,
I mean no, like
those Orientals.
we're all very. I mean, we're all very liberal. We're all very lefty type people for the most part, Luke. But like,
Yeah, you can be
I'm
a faux
literally-
Tory.
you're a. He's
the
not. No. He's not a Tory. He's our token alt right.
Yeah.
I am literally wearing.
alright. Fuck
I am literally wearing a Banksy T-shirt that
You
has
are.
a police officer searching Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz basket.
But my point is that like even though we are clearly very left wing, very kind of like liberal socially and economically, if you do identify as a conservative, if you are somebody who agrees with a lot of Conservative Party or small c conservative policies, like please get in touch and please talk to me because I do want to hear your point of view, particularly if you're a young person, because I'm very very interested in kind of the young
I actually know
conservative
a
point
Tory.
of view.
Because
Get
if you're
them in touch with me then, because like I'm not gonna make fun of you or anything. It's just gonna be me and you in a room having a chat. It'll be great. Thank
because
you very
if you're over 45 in the Tory, that doesn't count. That's just the same as breathing.
I don't agree, but that's
Hey, I mean, if you look at the demographics, every group under 45.
Can I just say, I
is
found
more
a story about your mum really fucking hilarious.
What one?
The,
There's loads.
the most recent one where she's complaining about.
the tax avoidance.
the tax
the
avoidance.
reason.
Yeah.
We were talking about footballers and their tax dodging. My mother votes Conservative, and I was sitting there, and I didn't say it to her because I've had enough conversations about why her voting Tory doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking again, and yet you vote for the Conservatives.
Yeah.
But to go back to the whole we're all liberal lefty cuck stuff, I'm really sorry about interrupting what you were saying about Saudi Arabia, Jareth. I just wanted to get in my grateful talent
that's fine.
before it was totally irrelevant.
That's fair. The modern expression of British imperialism is kind of our position as a major worldwide financial broker.
Yeah.
And part of that is our bizarrely amoral sale of arms to people who will then quote unquote lose those weapons, which then show up in the hands of active and known terrorist groups.
Yeah.
We have to kind of be morally responsible for that.
Well,
No, we don't. It's good business. It's
God.
good business, guys.
Here's
Sell it all. Sell it to anyone.
Here's a headline from the Independent from March, referring to this. The UK has made 10 times more in arms sales to Saudi Arabia than it's given in aid to Yemen.
Right.
Which I think just kind of like
That kind of encompasses the whole deal, doesn't it?
well, yeah, and I think if you looked into like kind of like Grenfell Tower and how much money they've made in savings on the cladding and all of that stuff,
Yeah.
and other towers as well, you'd see a similar kind of like
Yeah.
approach to kind of like sensible and humane.
Again, to kind of round this back to our original point, I mean, we've put people in charge of government agencies who are actively and openly against the function of those agencies. We've got Jeremy. Is it still Jeremy Hunt? It is still Jeremy Hunt.
Jeremy
isn't it?
Hunt.
Secretary.
It's still Jeremy Hunt.
Jeremy.
Who he literally wrote a book on why the NHS would be better off replaced with private insurance systems.
And I mean,
And then we gave it to him.
well,
And
and the Tories,
we as
Theresa,
a country.
Theresa May has been talking about this Naylor report, which is the report that she is going to abide by
Right.
in terms of how she's going to approach the NHS, and it literally talks about 2-for-1 offers.
Yeah. No.
So the idea is that you sell off your assets. The government is not going to pay for any new equipment or anything like that. So they won't pay, for instance, like MRI machines, stethoscopes, anything. They won't pay for anything through the government.
Yeah,
you have to sell your assets, and what the government will do is for all the assets you sell, they'll give you 2 times the amount you sold to pay for MRI.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, because
it's like what the fuck?
Because a system of institutionalized medicine, they don't need to buy new equipment.
So
I just don't
keep up with
understand
methods
it.
and practices.
I just don't understand it because I get it's one of those. I guess it's incompatible because it's talking about compassion when you're talking about politics, and specifically when you're talking about. Again, I'm a loony lefty, but if you talk about conservatives and compassion,
exactly.
It's like
that
you
doesn't
hit.
have to be. That doesn't.
No,
have to be
it doesn't have to be.
disconnect.
It doesn't have to be a disconnect. But what I can never wrap my head around is the Conservative Party, every party, talking about the jewel of Britain
Yeah,
is nationalised healthcare.
absolutely.
We paved the way. We, as a country, fought through a war which ravaged us.
Yeah.
Obviously, the other country will ravage us. We got really damaged by it, and then
After that,
we went right. Enough's enough. We're going to try and support our own people.
That's such an.
we pulled together. We had
Yeah.
the what I think is the greatest prime minister in modern British history.
That's such an incredible time to me. Like those 5 years.
Yeah.
Like I know there's the Korean War, and then there's the start of the nuclear weapons program under
Sure.
that Attlee government, and those are like the 2 big missteps. But it's such an incredible time to me because Churchill stood in that election. Churchill, who was essentially credited by everyone, and is still essentially credited by everyone for winning the war, for beating Germany.
Which is very tenuous, but still.
But it is credited for that, and is often considered to be the greatest Briton of all time.
Yeah.
Stood in an election for the Conservative Party as I won the war, and everyone voted for literally the man who was considered the most boring person on the planet.
Yeah.
Churchill said about him an empty taxi pulled up at Westminster and Clement Attlee got out.
Yeah. and he was, by all accounts, he was a very plain. He wasn't a kind of a bombastic personality like Winston Churchill, but then he also didn't rationalise the usage of chemical weapons against non-Western brown people, essentially, by calling them uncivilized peoples.
But
you know, he was a good person.
But that's 60 years. Like the last, they did that, and when Churchill became Prime Minister again in 1950, the Conservatives didn't change all that much.
Yeah.
And it was 30 years before they dared to change anything under Thatcher, and that was after a pretty toxic 1970s.
Yeah.
And still, all that stuff lasts.
It was incredible.
So,
We had you're right in that we kind of paved the way and stuff. Like as we kind of so often do. Like despite all kind of Britain's missteps, I do think there's still things worth being proud of here. Like the fact that we like most of the advanced world, the economically prosperous world, offers some kind of universal healthcare to their population, and even though ours isn't actually very good anymore compared to other countries, more like kind of newer systems.
it's pretty good about 8 years ago.
Yeah, well, yeah. it's
when it was funded properly.
Yeah, I mean it's still good. It still
when
does
they weren't
its
doing
job.
2-for-1 offers.
But like.
It's ridiculous
But,
things.
like,
2 for 1. You
But
offer one
it's
kidney, we
even
take
like
both.
in current days, even before like if she does follow this new law
Yeah.
report, it's to the point of they just didn't upgrade their Windows on their
Oh, that's
computers
mad.
That's ridiculous.
from Windows XP when obviously Microsoft definitely
I
said
have to say, I
Yeah.
can confirm that
Yeah.
working in the NHS, that the computers are the worst part, and I can completely understand
Yeah.
why so many people got hacked, because the computers, they're just like, they're so shit.
Well, to be fair though, like a lot. I mean, like you know, no offense to you, but like a lot of the staff aren't a lot better. Okay, so like my mum is she's a mental health nurse. She's worked in mental health for the past 20 years in the NHS. She's, oh god, I should know this.
Her national insurance number is this, her address is this.
50 something. She's in her kind of mid 50s. Shut up. And she is by far the most computer literate person on her ward. She's somebody who the other day texted me, "Can I watch a DVD on my laptop?" But she is the most, absolutely the most computer
it's
literate
not
person on
her
the ward.
responsibility if her entire NHS trust gets hacked.
No, absolutely not.
It's,
No, but like,
it's,
but like the
it's
fact
not
that,
the beeps on the
fact-
ground kind of people who have to rely on that.
Sure, no, but like the
No.
fact that the fact that their computers haven't been upgraded,
Yeah.
their training hasn't been upgraded.
Can I
There's no reason
interlude
for-
a little bit there?
Yeah,
So
go for it,
just leading on from that.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Like for instance, if I know that if I was to send an email out with really sensitive information, I need to use a secure email service,
Sure.
and I don't have a secure email because I'm not that important. Like, you know, I'm sure that there are people who are more important than me, who are like your mum, and won't necessarily know that they need to like Hillary Clinton won't necessarily know that they need to use a secure email address
Right,
for those specific emails. You know, like that's the problem. You know that they have these rules around confidentiality. They understood them when there was paper, but they don't understand them or understand how it works now. That information is easier to access remotely from somewhere else.
But these are all things that are really easily. They're incredibly easily solved. You know, I got an email today, like about kind of new directives in the company that I work for and things like that. And it's like it's not difficult for people to upgrade these systems.
It's not difficult, but again, it goes back to the whole sort of lack of any Tory compassion.
Right, exactly.
Over the winter, we had in this country a problem in the NHS that was considered so bad the UN described it as a humanitarian crisis.
And Theresa May,
and the government's response to that was, "No, it isn't."
Look at Syria. Look at Syria. That's what they did.
Yeah.
Look at Syria. Syria is a humanitarian crisis. We're not. What?
How?
What?
Yeah.
What? That's like comparing apples and oranges. It's not, you know.
In a country where and again, right? So like, okay, so like I understand that kind of like this whole thing of like,
Sorry, just as a sort of like mid bit to jump in on this,
Yeah.
I also think that everyone should probably know that we all did go on a march against cuts towards the NHS.
We
so
did.
this is probably a subject we could talk quite at length about.
this is quite biased, if anything else, but like
It's not quite biased. It is
I've
very biased.
I've
More
worked
than
for
that.
NHS, so
My family works in NHS.
your
Yeah,
family works.
exactly.
Your mum works with me.
My mum
your
works-
mum works with me.
My mum works in the NHS. Funny story though.
But yeah, like the fact that
I don't like my job.
I
Threatens to
am
abolish the entire institution.
so like
Make me unemployed, you bitch.
Hey there, friendo. It's me again. That got a bit intense. I had to edit out whole sections just to make that work. Hopefully the next half should be easier for me to... less controversial, I think. But that said, I mean, we invite controversy. Go ahead and let us know what you think. Send us messages, send us suggestions for topics if we're getting it wrong. You know, let us know. No topic gets left behind. That's us. Thanks for listening. See you next time.